My dear students, welcome to history class. Today we are going to learn the fifth chapter from history, that is culture and nationalism. In this chapter, we are going to learn what is nationalism and the factors that help to inculcate Indian nationalism. Actually, 19th century, the Indians realized the nationalism, or we can say the Indian nationalism emerged at 19th century. Then what is nationalism? We know there are many differences among the Indians. Each of us are different in color, creed, region, religion, language, customs, tradition, food habits, like that many difference among the Indians. But irrespective of all these differences, a sense of unity emerged. So that unity emerged, that is called as nationalism. So what is nationalism? Nationalism is the sense of unity among Indians irrespective of caste, creed, region, religion, etc. So by 19th century, Indian nationalism emerged. 19th century, India witnessed two types of protest. Protest against the evils and superstitions in society and protest against the economic exploitation of British. So that is the main feature of Indian society. Okay, during this time, the Indian nationalism emerged. So this lesson, we are going to learn the factors that helped emergence of Indian nationalism. So the main factors are colonial rule. Okay, first one is colonial rule, then social reforms, then press, then education, literature, then art. So these are the factors that help the growth of Indian nationalism. So this lesson we are going to learn these factors one by one. So let's begin with colonial rule. This part we are going to learn how the colonial rule helped the emergence of Indian nationalism. British understood that it is very important to know an in-depth study of India for administrational convenience. For that, they decided to learn about India. Okay, and they translated the early Sanskrit Persian books into English. The earlier books were in Sanskrit and during the medieval period, the majority in Persian language. So British decided to learn about India. So for that, it is very important for them to know the ancient India. So for this matter, they translated the early Sanskrit Persian books into English. Later they started institutions like Asiatic Society, Calcutta Madrasa and Banaras Sanskrit College. All these institutions to learn about India and to train their officers. Okay, but later British realized these steps were not enough to learn about India. So they decided to implement English education in India. The British traders also supported because it is much beneficial for trade. By introducing English education, the traders can earn more profit. So traders also supported this implementation of English education in Indian society. Actually, the real aim of British is to create a group of Indians in blood and color, but British in thought, opinion, etc. Actually, their aim is to create a group of Indians which in favor of colonial rule. In 1835, Lord Macaulay introduced Western education. But what happened is that by 18th century, the English culture intruded into Indian society. So the English educated Indians who know the concept of democracy, socialism, liberty, rationalism, scientific temper, etc. So the English educated Indians who know all these concepts very well, they realized how much the British exploited us and they resist the cultural intrudeness. So they tried for the revival of ancient art, literature, language, etc. But what happened is that their revival resulted in the emergence of nationalism. So this part we learned how colonial rule helped the development of nationalism. Once again, point wise, first we learned that British decided to learn about India. Secondly, they translated the ancient books into English, the ancient Sanskrit and Persian Arabic book into English. Later, they started some institutions, but it was not necessary. So, they decided to start English education in India. Okay, but what happened 18th century in British culture intruded into India and the English educated Indians decided to resist the cultural invasion and they try for the revival of the ancient language, literature, but what happened? It helped the growth of Indian nationalism. So the second is social reforms. The three peculiarities of 19th century society was liberal outlook, passion for modernization and rationalism. These are the main features of 19th century Indian society. During this time, the social reformers entered into the Indian society with two great objectives. Their objective was to eradicate evils and superstitions in Indian society and to ensure equality in dress, education, travel. During those times, many superstitions, evils, many inequalities existed in India. So, the social reformers decided they are going to eradicate all these unnecessary things from Indian society. For reaching these objectives, they put many goals like promote education to all, provide education to women, support widow remarriage, against child marriage, against the supremacy of clergy. Like that, they put many aims. Okay, now we are going to learn about three great social reformers. That is Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar and Pandita Ramabai. Raja Ram Mohan Roy, a pioneer in Indian social reform movement. He started Brahma Samaj. He was against sati and caste system. He mainly supported that instead of these fragments, Indian society should be unified. Actually, his idea of this unified India, it helped the growth of patriotism among people. He argued for getting property rights to women. Then only women can improve their position. Okay, then the next is Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. By his effort, the British government passed Widow Remarriage Act in 1856. He supported women education and he supported widow remarriage and he was against child marriage. Then the next is Pandita Ramabai. Pandita Ramabai was a pioneer in the field of women education. She started Sharada Sadan in Bombay for providing women education. Later, many such institutions were started all over the country. So this part first we learned the three features of Indian society: liberal outlook, passion for modernization and rationalism. Then we learned the two great aims of social reformers: to eradicate social evils and superstitions and to ensure equality in dress, travel and education. Then we learned about the aims of the social reformers. Then we learned about three great social reformers, that is Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar and Pandita Ramabai. So, by that we completed the first two parts, colonial rule and social reforms, how these two help in the growth of Indian nationalism. Then the next is press. Nowadays, we are getting majority of news from the newspaper. We are depending not only the national but also the international news from the newspaper. So the newspaper had a vital role during the freedom movement. The newspapers spread varieties of news. They spread the news about major revolutions. The revolutions for democracy, liberty, the social evils and superstitions in Indian society. They spread the news about the economic exploitation of British and also about the epidemics and flood, the suppressive rule of British. So all these newses came to the people through these newspaper. Okay. Raja Ram Mohan Roy was the first Indian to start a national perspective newspaper. His Sambat Kaumudi and Miratul Akbar in Persian, these are the first newspaper in vernacular language. Later, many Indians also started newspaper in vernacular language. During the time of freedom movement, journalism was a social service. So, because the British treated harshly to the people who wrote against them. But bravely our Indians did that. When the number of vernacular newspaper increased, Lord Lytton passed Vernacular Press Act in 1878. But later this act was taken off due to the protests from Indians. Okay, so in the part of press mainly we want to concentrate what type of news spread during the time of British. Okay, then the next is education. It is a very important area. Okay, because we want to learn a lot and often we can see many questions from the part of education during the public exams also. So education, see my dear students, the field of education witnessed two types of conflict. Okay, what happened is that socially, economically, politically, British tried to rule India. Same time, socially, economically, politically, India tried to gain independence from the British. Actually, this conflict was more visible in the field of education. Already I told you, Lord Macaulay started Western education in 1835. But that education was not fitted for India. Indians need Indian educational centers. So, during the time of Swadeshi movement onwards, many such Indian educational centers started in India. The first one, that is Deccan Educational Society. Okay, Deccan Educational Society started in 1888 by Rande, Balagangadhar Tilak and Agakar. These three are the great persons behind the Deccan Educational Society. The aim of Deccan Educational Society is socio-cultural economic progress of India. Okay. Then second one, D.K. Kaur started Indian Women University in 1916. The main aim of Indian Women University is women empowerment. Okay. Later, many such institutions started all over India. So, now we learn two of important Indian educational centers. The first one, already I told you it is very important area, education. First one is Deccan Educational Society. Okay, the next one is Indian Women University. Okay, Deccan Educational Society started by G.G. Agakar, Rande and Balagangadhar Tilak. It started in 1888. Its aim is socio-economic cultural progress of India. Indian Women University started in 1916 by D.K. Kaur. Its aim is women empowerment. Okay. Then the next is Vishwabharati. I know majority of you heard of this Vishwabharati. Okay. Vishwabharati University started by Ravindranath Tagore. The aim of this university is education bridge the Eastern and Western cultures and also universal brotherhood. Actually, it is a very small school. It started with a small school called Shantiniketan. Later, it changed to the famous Vishwabharati University. Okay. So, Vishwabharati by Ravindranath Tagore. Next, Jamia Millia Islamia. Jamia Millia Islamia. Jamia Millia Islamia started by Gandhiji along with Shaukat Ali, Muhammad Ali, M.A. Ansari and Zakir Hussain. Okay, along with them, Gandhiji started Jamia Millia Islamia. Its aim is to provide secular education, that is education beyond religion. Okay, then the next is Kerala Kalamandalam. Kerala Kalamandalam, founded by Mahakavi Vallathol Narayana Menon on the banks of river Bharatapuzha at Cheruthurthi village in Thrissur. Okay, its aim is the revival of traditional art and literature. Then next we want to learn about two educational policies from Gandhiji, that is Varda Plan and Naithalim. Varda Plan, it is an important educational policy of Gandhiji in 1937. Gandhiji realized that the real aim of education accomplished when we provide vocational education along with education. Such a generation, they only can defend the British rule. So for this great aim, Gandhiji started Varda Plan. Okay. Naithalim, another educational policy of Gandhiji. It aimed that children between 8 to 14 should provide education in mother tongue. So these are the main points we want to go in the part of education. Once again, my dear students, because it is a very important area. Already I told you the field of education witnessed two types of protest. Firstly, we want to say that politically, economically, culturally, British tried to overrule India. Same time, culturally, economically, politically, India tried to get independence from British. Actually, this conflict was more visible in the field of education. Then we learned about important Indian educational centers. First one, Deccan Educational Society, founded by G.G. Agakar, Rande and Balagangadhar Tilak with the great aim to provide socio-economic development of India. Indian Women University by D.K. Kaur in 1916 at Bombay, its aim is women empowerment. Next is Vishwabharati University by Ravindranath Tagore. Education bridged the Eastern and Western culture and universal brotherhood was its aim. Jamia Millia Islamia, founded by Gandhiji along with Muhammad Ali, Shaukat Ali, M.A. Ansari and Zakir Hussain. Its aim is to provide secular education, that means education beyond religion. Next is Kerala Kalamandalam, founded by Mahakavi Vallathol Narayana Menon for the revival of traditional art and literature. Next, afterwards we learned about Varda Plan and Naithalim. Varda Plan, vocational education should be provided along with normal education. And at last we learned about Naithalim. It is the educational policy of Gandhiji by which children between 8 to 14 should give education in mother tongue. Okay. Then the next part is literature. Next part is literature. So here we want to learn how literature helped to inculcate Indian nationalism. Okay. Writers from various language also show they express their attitude against the British rule in various forms of literature. The main forms of literature during the British period was novel, poem, dramas, plays, acts, etc. Writers, they are ready to express about the social evil, superstitions and the exploitation, suppressions faced by the people. Okay, then what happened is that a new form of literature originated during the freedom time, that is patriotic song. Patriotic song easily attracted the upper class and lower class. Okay. Next, we want to learn about some of the important literary works during the freedom time. First is the concept of Bharat Mata. So this part we are going to learn about. First we want to learn about Bharat Mata, then Anandamat, then Neel Darpan, then the next is Sare Jaham Se Acha. So these are some of the important literature that produced during the freedom movement, or these are some of the important literature that helped the growth of Indian nationalism. First is Bharat Mata. Here we want to learn that for the first time the concept of Bharat Mata, it was developed by Shishir Kumar Ghosh and Satyendranath Tagore. The concept of Bharat Mata was developed through a play by Shishir Kumar Ghosh and Satyendranath Tagore. Then the next is Bankim Chandra Chatterjee was a prolific Bengali writer. He wrote many prose. He can be compared to a Western writer. Okay. One of his important work was Anandamat. Anandamat, it is about the sannyasi revolt and the disparity in income between rich and poor in Bengal society. The morning song of India, Vande Mataram, is taken from the work Anandamat. Okay. Next we want to learn about Neel Darpan. Neel means blue. Blue is the color of indigo. So Neel Darpan, it is by Dinabandhu Mitra. It is about the pathetic condition of indigo farmers. Actually, this work is highly appreciable in Indian National Congress meeting. This work, it exposed the condition of indigo farmers to the world. Okay. Then the next is Sare Jaham Se Acha by Allama Muhammad Iqbal. It is about the natural beauty of India and the Hindu-Muslim unity. So these are the major works that help to inculcate Indian nationalism. So what we learned in literature, first we learned that many of the writers, they express their attitude towards the British rule and also against the superstitions and the social evils existed in the Indian society. The main forms of literature were plays, drama, novels, poems, patriotic songs, etc. Actually, patriotic song is the new form that emerged and it easily captured the high class and lower class. Later we discuss some of the works. First we discuss about Bharat Mata, the concept of Bharat Mata for the first time introduced through a play by Shishir Kumar Ghosh and Satyendranath Tagore. Then we discussed about Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, who was a prolific Bengali writer. He wrote many prose. One of his famous work was Anandamat. It tells about the pathetic condition of Indians, especially the sannyasi revolt and the disparity in income between rich and poor. Then Morning Song of India, Vande Mataram, was taken from Anandamat. Then we discuss about Neel Darpan by Dinabandhu Mitra. It exposed the pathetic condition of indigo farmers. Then the next is Sare Jaham Se Acha by Allama Muhammad Iqbal. It is about the natural beauty and the unity of Hindus and Muslims. The next part, that is art and nationalism. This part also, my dear students, I am going to introduce some of the persons who gave notable contributions or the persons that helped to inculcate nationalism through art, through their paintings. Okay, first we want to learn about Abanindranath Tagore. Abanindranath Tagore. Then the next is Nandalal Bose. Then Amrita Shergill. Raja Ravi Verma. So these are some of the persons who gave notable contributions in the field of art. First one, Abanindranath Tagore. Okay. Abanindranath Tagore painted the picture of Bharat Mata as Bharat Mata distributing food, cloth, knowledge to the Indian masses. It created a spirit of patriotism among the people. Nationalism and arts. Here we are going to learn about some of the persons who gave notable contributions in the field of arts, or the persons that help us to inculcate nationalism. First is Abanindranath Tagore. Abanindranath Tagore, he was a great painter from Bengal. Okay. For the first time, he picturized Bharat Mata as Bharat Mata distributing food, cloth, knowledge, wisdom to the Indian people. It created a sense of patriotism among the people. To free the Indian painting from the clutches of Western influence, he started Indian Oriental Society of Arts in Calcutta. The next is Raja Ravi Varma. Raja Ravi Varma actually painted from the ancient literature, Puranas, etc. The next is Nandalal Bose. The two famous paintings of Nandalal Bose, that is Village Drummer and Sati. His painting Sati, it expressed the dilemmas of a woman who is going to perform the social evil Sati. It was a highly discussed portrait. Next is Village Drummer. Village Drummer, it is the emblem of Haripura Congress session of 1939. Okay. Then another great painter was Amrita Shergill. She picturized a group of Indians in dark shade. It expressed the condition of Indians under the foreign rule. So here this part we learned about the four great painters, that is Abanindranath Tagore, Nandalal Bose, Amrita Shergill, Raja Ravi Varma. Abanindranath Tagore, important painting was Bharat Mata. Nandalal Bose, Sati and Village Drummer. Amrita Shergill, a group of Indians in dark shade. Raja Ravi Varma, portrait mainly from literature, ancient literatures, Puranas, Idihasas, etc. Besides all these factors, already we discussed about colonial rule, social reforms, press, education, art, literature. Besides these factors, national anthem, national emblem, national symbols, all these also help to inculcate nationalism among Indians. Hope this chapter is clear for you. Thank you.